Welcome to Caffeinated Truth Apologetics. And this episode is very special because it's all about back to school. That's right. Even if you're not a parent or have a grandchild or are involved in education at all, you know it's that time of year because of the back to school sales. Maybe your town or city is a little bit more crowded because everybody's coming back from that last minute trip or vacation. And you can just feel it. It's the time for everything to get started in terms of school. So, to honor that, we're going to have our first podcast guest to be able to talk to us about some of the challenges of that Christian educators and administrators are facing today, as well as a couple different ways that we can support our students in the classroom as they get started for this school year. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome our first guest, Mr. Eric Anthony. How are you doing today?
Hello, thank you for inviting me from the living room.
That's right, because as you could probably guess, this is actually my husband and the father of our children. And I just really had to take this opportunity to use our resident expert because, Eric, you've been in education for how long?
18 years.
So when you have someone who has been in education for that long and you've been a teacher and administrator, you got to use the best that is available to you. So to get started, I'm going to go ahead and ask you, Eric, a little bit about yourself, how you got into education, and we'll be able to kind of talk together as parents. We have an incoming fourth grader and sixth grader. So as a teacher myself, we really have a unique perspective to be able to talk about, especially when it comes to supporting your students, because we see both sides of the coin. So, Eric, go ahead and let us know a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I got into education originally as an afterthought, honestly. When I was in school, I went to Long Beach State. I double majored in broadcast journalism and political science. And when I first started applying for jobs that last semester of college, when I first started dating Crystal, I noticed that a lot of the jobs were minimum wage jobs. And by minimum wage back then, this was 2006, federal minimum wage was around $5 an hour. So I got a couple offers from a couple of television stations in the Midwest, in the Mideastern United States, and it was $5 an hour. And I thought, yeah, there's no way I could do that. So I, really thought and prayed about it, and I decided to go into education. So, growing up in the church, after my senior year, I was a children's ministries intern working with K through 6 students, which I really loved. After that, even in college, one of my part-time jobs was I was an avid tutor at Hughes Middle School in Long Beach, working for Long Beach Unified. And the job was called College Aid, and it paid really well, and the hours were great. So that was a great job, and kind of got my feet wet because, of course, I was nervous. I was wondering, is this really for me? Because working with older kids like Crystal does, to me, is a lot scarier than working with younger kids. But yeah, so I did that, and then I decided to get my teaching credential. So in California, I have my multiple subject teacher credential, which lets me teach K through 6. I taught sixth grade for 8 years, and I truly believe if you can teach sixth grade, you can teach anything, because that's the age where the hormones are raging, that kids are trying to figure out who they are. Boys have what I call scrambled egg brains. They can't think straight. And I really enjoyed it, and having, my personality and my goofy attitude working with those kids. I've also taught 7th and 8th grade history and AVID at the middle school level, and I really enjoyed that too. Um, Eventually, during this process, 12 years in, I kind of thought, you know what? Kind of like to be the administrator. I want to take on a different challenge. I want to be able to lead. And I had worked for a lot of administrators up to that point that I really felt, one, didn't have a heart for kids, two, weren't showing those Christian beliefs and attitudes toward teachers, parents, students, and even fellow staff members at the time. So I decided, with a friend that I was working with at the time at the school site I was at, to make the jump. Went through our admin credential program, and then I got my first administrator job right after COVID hit as a high school vice principal for a year. And then for the last 5 years, I've been an elementary school assistant principal. So it's crazy all the different things I've gone through in the last 18 years. I can't believe it's been 18 years.
Yeah. I mean, having that incoming sixth grader, he knows he's got the expert on hand. And I just know that listening to you and the way that you treat your teachers and your students, I have to say, I've got to brag a little bit. I have never known a little kid to be so excited to see their assistant principal in public. Like they come up to him and they're so excited. He coached our son's baseball team, and all the students that were playing were really excited to see Mr. Anthony. So it's very evident that your heart is for kids. So we're really excited to have you on today. So um, now you mentioned you came from you grew up Christian, you grew up in the church, you did some children's ministry. Obviously, you know we're living in California. I know it's like big scary California, but there are some challenges. There are challenges to being a public school teacher in particular. So what I'd like for you to start out with today is just really talk about maybe some currently today. What are some of the challenges that Christian teachers and administrators are dealing with?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, first of all, things have changed completely for education in general since COVID. I feel like before I started teaching back in 2009, and back in 2009, that's when the Great Recession, if you remember, if you're old enough to remember that, under President Bush
I wasn't
happened.
that old yet.
And I know, and a lot of teachers were being pink slipped and losing their jobs. And the way education was back then is it was very scripted. So, in the state of California back then, we had the STAR test. So everything teachers did was very scripted. And it was kind of easy as a new teacher because everything was laid out for you. Every lesson was laid out for you, what you were supposed to say to the students, the different components of the lesson, everything was there. And then all of a sudden, things changed to Common Core. So the pendulum swung from one end to another, where as a teacher, you really had to be on the ball and you really had to have your stuff together. As far as being a Christian in the classroom and as a teacher, it's challenging. It's really hard. You deal with, you get a chance if you're a multiple subject teacher to get to know 30, sometimes 35 plus kids during the school year, and they all come from various backgrounds. They all have different things happening in their lives. And I'm talking, 11 and 12-year-old kids that I worked with, um, broken homes, living with grandparents, different socioeconomic backgrounds. And so you've got to take all of this and put it together. And as a Christian, look at it like, why am I here? And something one of my mentor teachers taught me that has always stuck with me is that being in the classroom or being in education is your mission field. Other people talk about, oh, your mission field is talking to people in the break room. Your mission field is, going to a company event and witnessing there. But as an educator, a Christian educator, it starts in the classroom. It starts with developing those relationships with kids, and it's not easy. It can be really tough sometimes. It's very, very rewarding. I think it's the most rewarding field that's out there. But I also think it's the hardest field because of, the things that are happening in the world, what we're dealing with, the preconceived notions that people have, a classroom teacher before the child even gets in there. So as a Christian educator, it takes a lot of prayer, praying every day, Lord, use me to help impact these 30 students. And now as an administrator, it's Lord, use me to impact these 650 students plus all of their parents. So that's something, 1,200, 1,300 people, their grandparents, their aunts and uncles, plus your 40 plus staff members that are under you. So it's difficult, but at the same time, it's one of the most rewarding jobs that could be out there because you're helping develop the next generation. And, I know a big thing that's out there right now is that, well, private school is the best. Private school, that's where my Christian child should be, and it's going to protect them and shield them. But, and the way I see it is honestly, the most work needs to be done in the public schools. Public school students are going to be in the real world with our private school students, and they need just as much love and support as the private school students do. And I know that's an argument I've gotten in with some people before, but I really believe the public school needs solid Christian educators, educators that have a heart for children, educators that, and it's not just working with kids, it's also the big part of it is working with their families, working with their parents. I know, the families I work with, they know I have an open door. They can come talk to me at any time about anything, and then I'm going to hear them out. A big thing about being a Christian educator is I don't yell. I've raised my voice at home to my own kids, but I don't yell. I'm very relational with students, and being an assistant principal, I really am focused on teaching them Christ-like values. It's hard because I can't directly say Jesus. I can't directly say Christ. I can't, quote Bible verses to kids and parents in public school. But at the same time, I can also portray that attitude and that sense of importance with how to act, with how to respond to disciplinary action, with how to talk to parents about it. It's a balance. There's days that I come home and Crystal knows I am shot because being an educator today is so draining. And but on the flip side, like I said, there's so many pluses to it. Um, yeah, it's a challenging but very rewarding field, especially being a Christian educator.
Do you feel like that the challenges are different now that you've kind of gotten on the other side of the desk, so to speak? So you've spoken a lot to a teacher, and I was a public school teacher for 13 years. Might be again someday, wherever God leads me. Right now, I am at a private school with our own children, and that is, like you mentioned, Eric, something that we think about every day. Do we have our kids in the best place? This is what it is for this season, but definitely, I did see that as my mission field as well. So can you speak specifically, or if maybe there's not a difference, to what it's like to be an administrator versus a teacher?
Oh, it's night and day. I think the biggest challenge, especially being an administrator, is that you're working much more with the families
Mm.
than you are with the students. I still see the students every day. I work with students every day. I get to hang out with them. I get to talk to them. I get to ask them how their weekend was, how their summer vacation was. But a big part of it that I didn't realize making the jump from classroom teacher to administrator was working with families. And I think the thing that really benefited me was growing up in the church, the discipleship focus that was embedded in me through church, through Sunday school, through youth group, how important it is to connect with people. And one thing I've learned is that, as a father myself, something that's really benefited me being an administrator is the fact that I have a sixth grade son at home who's going to go through all the things that all the sixth graders this year are going to go through. I have a fourth grader at home. I have a daughter who's going to go through all the things fourth grade girls go through. So I'm able to relate to the families and parents I talk to because we've gone through it. It's not, I'm making it up just to give lip service to the people that are coming to my office. I've really gone through this. And so when I'm having those interactions as an administrator with families, I'm really relating to them because I've been there and I'm going through it. I've been exhausted going to all the baseball practices. I've been exhausted going to all the softball practices, softball games, soccer games. I've done it. But yeah, big difference is definitely working with the families on the administrative side, and then working with other adults. That's another huge change that I didn't really consider because when I thought about going into administration, honestly, my rationale first was like, you know what, I could do this job so much better than principles I have right now. But my big thing was I could treat people so much differently and with so much more love of Christ than some of these people that I've worked for before. When I was a classroom teacher, because I had administrators, early in my career where I thought, how on earth did this person become an administrator? How on earth could you treat, other adults who are working with kids the way you treat them? And the driving thing for me was I want to show Christ's love. And I was doing that as a classroom teacher, but I wanted to take that to the next level. And now I'm really in the trenches doing it as an administrator with families, with staff members, with students, with classified staff members, with community members that come in. So it's a huge change. going from just 35 kids to all these other things as an administrator.
Yeah, I feel like maybe the demands to be more of an example, and maybe you have the ability to set the tone for your campus a lot more as well. And I've definitely seen that. You've come up with some really great stuff for your staff and students. And so, yeah, I can see what that's like. Do you feel like it's harder to be an administrator with what you see, or do you feel like, teaching was had its challenges?
I think they both definitely have their challenges. I think now that I'm on the dark side, is what educators call it. When you that's what oh, that's fully what it is. When you cross from being a teacher to administrator, yeah, you're crossing to the dark side is what I said it when I was a teacher. You're crossing to the dark side. You've joined the dark side of the force if you're a Star Wars fan. Um, but it's you have a lot of different challenges, like I talked about earlier. It's really um, you and what you do isn't impacting just 35 students anymore. It's affecting almost over 1,000, 2,000 people if you really think about it, with the student body plus their parents plus their family members. I mean, what you do is a ripple effect. It's a stone in the river where everything carries out. And as a Christian administrator, I pray every day before I go to school, while I'm in my office, about the day that I'm going to have, about the people I'm going to interact with. One thing I always pray for as Christian administrator is for wisdom and for the right words to say, because there have been situations I'm sure every school administrator in the country can relate to that just come from nowhere, get thrown at you, and you really have to sit back and calm and think, okay, how do I respond to this? What is the most Christ-like way to respond to this? How do I address this with the student? How do I tell the student's family about what happened? How do I tell the victim's family about what happened? And it's really, just taking a breath, slowing down, building relationships with people, because at the end of the day, as a Christian, that's what it's all about.
Okay. So great. And yeah, I just am thinking of so many situations, just again, on my own that I experienced as a teacher, and I still experience as a teacher. There's no, can't say just being even at a private school, there's no like barrier. You still deal with so many of the same things. Our own kids have still dealt with a lot of the same heartbreak and hard social things, and I've had to still have a lot of those same conversations. Just with the benefit of being able to be able to pray with my students, and maybe even just appeal to what they know is right and true through scripture. So as we get into the school year, especially with all the challenges you've brought up, how are or what are some ways that parents and churches and we can support you and our Christian brothers and sisters who are heading into a new school year? For us, it's going to be next week, especially in public education, as that's kind of your forte. But just in general, I know, again, difficult still for me in the private school right now or homeschool families. There's just a lot of the ways that we can support as well.
That's a great question. I think one area is definitely praying for your kids' teachers, for your kids' school. It's not an easy job. And I remember as a teacher myself, when COVID happened, the world was, looked at education and went, oh my gosh, you guys are amazing. We can't believe you do what you do. Thank you so much. And there was such an overwhelming sense of, oh, you guys are amazing. And then as soon as, the restrictions started easing up, kids started going back to school, being forced to wear masks, which don't get me started on that soapbox. But the dynamic completely shifted with the general public, and all of a sudden educators became the bad guys again. Educators are seen as lacking authority. Educators are seen, as being incompetent. They don't know what they're doing, which is completely untrue. I work with some of the most educated, most brilliant people I've ever met in my life. The fact that people think, oh, well, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. I mean, this is a person that went, these are college educated professionals. They went to school for 4 years to get their bachelor's. They went to school for another 2, maybe 3 years to get a teaching credential. They may have gone back and gotten a master's degree. These are smart people. who know what they're doing, who know their content. So, one thing I would ask is that please pray for schools because this is not an easy job. And this is I feel like one of the most vilified positions that are out there. And, our own pastor told us this one time and told me this one time, and it really resonated with me that today's educators are modern day Daniels. So it's really, really challenging. And it takes a lot more, personally inside of you to really be an educator today because you have so much thrown at you and so much lack of understanding, lack of support. That would be another thing I'd say is support your kid's teacher. They might not always get it right. We're all human. Um, Extend some grace to them. They really have your child's best interest at heart. I can say that about all the teachers I've worked with as a teacher and as an administrator. There's not one I could think of like, oh, they didn't like it. No, they all love kids. They wouldn't have gone into this profession without it. And like I said earlier, post COVID has been very, very challenging. We have kids coming into our schools now that aren't potty trained. They're coming in, and it's the expectation that the school is taking care of that. And I feel like even the last 6 years that I've been an administrator, the schools have become parents now. The schools are having to parent these 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds that are coming in, potty train them, teaching them basic, manners, teaching them social skills, how to get along with other students, how to, control your emotions, keep your hands to yourself. So the job of an educator has really, really changed from just being an educator. There's so much more that your, your teachers do today than they did even 10 years ago. So definitely send them some grace. Churches absolutely pray for your teachers and administrators. Our own church did that today, which was amazing, and hopefully your church does that as well. Yeah, it's a very, very challenging profession, but with the support of families and parents, that's what helps the teachers thrive is knowing that you support them, you have their back, knowing that we on the other side of the fence also have parents' backs. I think that's a big thing that parents feel like we don't support them. We aren't doing our best. We're not, you know, 24/7 keeping eyeballs on their children, which I wish I could do, with 650 kids, but just giving us the grace and knowing that we're doing everything we can. And if, mess up, we own up to it. We ask for forgiveness. We move on. We try to do something different. But just to give us that grace and know that, hey, we're not the bad guy. We're not here to make your life miserable. We're not here to make your child's life miserable. Um, Another big thing is if your child's teacher is calling you, um, take it seriously. I don't know how else to say it, but they're taking the time to call you about your child. One, remember they genuinely care about your child. Two, if they're making the effort to call you, they're concerned. They're not mad. They're not out to get your child. They're really concerned and they're seeing something that is causing them to worry. And they're coming to you, the parent, to say, hey, I need your help with this. This is what I'm seeing in the classroom. And I know a big area of frustration for educators is feeling a lack of support for parents. And I won't lie, as a parent myself, I've been mad at, our kids' teachers before. But at the same time, I also think, okay, I'm a school administrator. I'm the person on the other end of the phone that gets those complaints, and so I hear them all the time. So it's just extending grace, being patient with your teacher's educator, and just being there. Get involved in your child's classroom. Um, I can't emphasize that enough because if you don't know what's happening in the classroom, you know you're kind of at a loss. How are you going to help your child out if you're not fully understanding what's going on? If things are going on, just be open to it. Don't feel another thing. Don't feel like schools are attacking you personally. If a teacher's calling, telling you that your son or daughter is misbehaving, don't. It's hard not to take it personally, but don't take it personally. Our whole objective is to work with you as parents to do the best for the child. And it's a relationship. So it's a trifecta. It's what I've always said since I've been an administrator. It's the child, the parent, and the school working together to, best help the child. And that when I think about, being Christian, how it reflects back to that. It's really important to, remember that nobody's perfect, but we're all on the same page and we're going to do the best we can.
Okay, that's so great. So just to summarize, because I think you started getting into the my next question, so we'll kind of look at that. So definitely pray for your teachers, pray for your school. I mean, we cannot emphasize more that power of prayer to just really extend grace. Know that these people, these teachers, these administrators, these bus drivers, cafeteria ladies, like nobody would be doing this job if we didn't love kids. So just to make sure that you're extending grace and definitely having good communication. If you end up having, I just want to know, like, again, speaking from a parent and a teacher side, if you have your child happens to have a teacher that does make those phone calls, that actually makes the effort to call for just to be able to help your child, or I know it's been surprising when I do good phone calls home, like your kid's doing great. Just know that it's because we value what you're doing at home. We know that you are the parent, you are the one with the greatest relationship with your child. And so to be able to support them like that as well. So I really loved that you segue into our last question here, which is just really how we can be supporting our children, what you see both as a teacher and administrator. So you started off with saying just to get involved on campus. I know, again, if you, so many things happen when you don't know what's going on. People make assumptions, or things are happening, and so I feel like the more you are involved on your campus and being if your school allows it, to be in the classroom, to be able to help, go to the carnival, go to the performance, the more you're going to feel your teachers and your school is going to feel more comfortable, and you're going to be able to help your student better. But is there anything else you'd like to add to that? I know that's a huge one. That's a big reason why we did make this shift from our local schools to this. So go ahead and let us know.
Um, yeah, that's a big one. Something else that jumps to my mind right now that we're dealing with in today's world is this technology.
We do that too, don't we?
We do. As a parent, one thing you can do is, that I would say as an educator is be very mindful giving your child technology. Be very mindful that, especially the age that your child is, if you give them technology. I've seen students as young as kindergarten with iPhones, and even that have come into my office, children under the age of 4 sitting watching an iPhone while I'm talking to a parent. And I feel like, I'm getting my doctorate in educational technology right now. And I really feel like technology can serve a great purpose and can do great things. But also, I've seen the flip side being in both, an educator and administrator, of how distracting they can be. That, as a Christian, it exposes your child to so many things that we didn't have to deal with growing up. I mean, Chris and I were talking about this the other day. When we were in high school, we had the Nokia bar phones. You could play Worm on it. You had to, push the number 1 3 times to get the letter C when you were texting. So it was a very, very different world. And our kids today are exposed to everything. They're exposed to cyberbullying, which, 20 years ago, nobody would have thought cyberbullying, sending horrible things through text messages were a thing. Um, just be mindful of your kids' technology. With that, social media is a huge, huge issue. I tell parents all the time, first of all, to be mindful of allowing your child to get on social media, because all of these companies, as much as I complain about these companies, as a parent and as an administrator, but all these companies, their terms of service say that the child has to be 13 or older to get on to these platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. It says it on there. And so when I deal with issues on the administrator side where a 9-year-old and 8-year-old is doing things, inappropriate things on social media. The parent is getting mad at me. I have to sit back and say, but you let your child who's under 13 get onto this platform, and you are, as the parent, allowing them to be exposed to these things. And something else I want to tell parents is what I can do as a school administrator, and this goes for all administrators, is so limited when it comes to social media. And I don't have the ability to subpoena Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever it may be to get information, to deal with these things. So again, be really, really mindful with technology with your children. Same thing with Chromebooks. A lot of schools, your kids are taking Chromebooks home, and just be mindful that even if they're connecting to your Wi-Fi at home, that Chromebook, it's a school computer, and the school that your child goes to can see everything your child is looking at. And hopefully, it's not inappropriate. Hopefully, it's school related. But at the same time, if they are, that's something school can see. So just be really mindful. I feel like society today has really shifted more toward having this, if I was this screen, be the babysitter and preoccupy kids. And it's a shame because there's a lot of parents out there that still hold those traditional Christian values that are building relationships with kids, taking them places. And it shows. And I can tell, I tell on a daily basis who those kids are and who the parents are, and the ones that really, genuinely care and want to get involved, like Crystal's talking about in their schools. But yeah, just be really mindful. We live in a world that's changing every day. Another thing, really quickly, AI is another big one. AI is another big one. Yeah, AI is a huge. I haven't seen it too much in the elementary level, thankfully, but I know talking to middle school and high school colleagues, that's a huge thing. So just be really mindful of what your child is doing when it comes to technology, because at the end of the day, you as the adults are responsible for your minor child. And that's the big thing to be aware of, is that, and it's scary for me as a dad too, thinking that if our son or daughter does something, I'm the one responsible for that because they're minors. I'm the one that's liable. And so I think parents really need to be aware of that, because a lot of parents want to cast it down on that 8-year-old, that 7-year-old, and they're not really seeing there's other dynamics and things that are happening with that kid.
Yeah, I think that just really goes back to the principle that we have, and that you'll hear me talk about anytime I talk about parenting, is that, especially with our culture, is that you are your child's first teacher. So talk about teachers. I mean, you essentially are the number one influence in your kid's life. And it's not just to teach them about scripture or to teach them about God. It's also just going to be how we see through that lens and how do we interact with the world. So I think technology is great. We do use technology in our home. I use it in my classroom all the time, but it is not just enough to show them how to use it in terms of turning it on or how the technology works, but how to use it well, how to be good stewards. And it's a really great opportunity to, I think, as parents, to be able to sit back and show kids how they can be a great example to others too with that. But social media, those things, they're not going away. I know that's something that you could wish it away, Eric, but it's not going away. But just to be able to do those opportunities, and with that.
Well, and another thing that that I tell parents all the time too, just thinking about it, is that all of these things have parental controls. And that's something that's developed over the last 10 plus years. But if you do choose as a Christian parent to give your child that technology, for example, our son loves Nintendo Switch. I mean, as you can tell from my video game collection back here. But did you know the Nintendo Switch has parental controls that you can download an app on your phone and control the amount of time your child has on that Nintendo Switch? Or our daughter has an Amazon Fire tablet that Crystal and I can control the amount of time that our daughter spends on that tablet. So there are great tools out there, when it comes to technology and being a parent, that you can utilize to control what your child is doing if you choose to give your child technology, which we have in some cases. as parents, but as an administrator, I also tell parents that too. Like, hey, did you know you could do this? Did you know that you can set up parental controls on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, and you can limit and set all of those things for your child? There's great apps out there. I've heard of things like Life 360, Bark. There's lots of great apps out there. So technology isn't all bad, but at the same time, if you're choosing to do that, you just encourage parents to utilize parental controls because it allows you to see the text messages that your child is getting. It allows you to see what your child is playing online. I think David Crystal and I has been, is our child playing online and who are they playing with? Things like that. So it's like I've said, this is a completely different world. Our children have never known a world without the internet. Our children have never known a world without the iPhone. Since our son was born in 2015, the iPhones existed. So they live in a completely different, fast-paced, fast-changing, world where they're used to seeing a 30-second video clip on TikTok, and then their mind goes somewhere else. And all students today are struggling with that. Attention spans are not what they used to be. So something that I would encourage is parental controls, limiting screen time, because we've seen that in our own home when we restricted our own children with screen time, that they do still play. They do still want to go outside. They do still want to, play dress up and do fun things and do crafts. They still do what we did growing up as kids. And by limiting that, that's paid off for us in dividends.
Yeah. So again, going back to that, so being really aware of social media and just the use of technology. It's a tool that your child will be using in school. Again, it's not going away, but knowing that you are that first person to teach your children. Also, just to understand that the social issues that are coming, if you a lot of times do just kind of overflow into home, especially with that tech, setting boundaries, making sure your kids have healthy breaks, to be able to just have that tech free time because they are using it at school so much. Family time, that's something I'm just going to go ahead and add. I know that's something, it's going to get harder as our kids get older and play more sports, but I feel like the times that we've taken to still have dinner together, to still take that time together, even though some nights are busier than others, to ask them about their day. They're really cute. They love asking Eric about his day. To see what's been going on, too, just as much as they like to share about their day as well, and that is something we built into that. So, oh gosh, so much good stuff. I'm gonna just have you on so we can talk about just how to use technology as a Christian parent. I think that would be really excellent as well.
Well, you know where to find me.
I think that way, right? That way. Okay. Before we close out, though, again, I want to provide another amazing resource that I'm just really excited about, and I've actually given to several parents. And friends as we've gotten into that. But this is this amazing book. I've mentioned before that I've gotten involved with Mama Bear Apologetics as a deep dive instructor. By the way, you should check that out. But this book, Honest Prayers for Mama Bears, is excellent. It has everything in it from just for you as a parent, but also just as what your kids might be going through, the different stages in life. It's anything from toddlers all the way up through adult children. So this is a great resource. And this is actually what I've been giving to everybody is pocket prayers for Mama Bear. So I keep this in my purse. I brought it with me to school. I've used it when I've been sitting in the car waiting for my kids to finish with practice or different things. So to end today, I would like to read again, and this is just a smaller version of the larger book, but this just fits so well even in my little bag that I have right now. So this prayer is for biblically minded teachers and administrators, especially in public schools. So I just want to go ahead and pray together with this. So Lord, we pray for public schools where your name is not allowed to be openly proclaimed. Raise up God-fearing administrators into leadership roles. Grant them favor among their peers, students, and parents. May the fragrance of Christ permeate their demeanor, competence, and knowledge and attract others to you. Shield both teachers and administrators from the pressures of a culture that prioritizes feelings over facts and politeness over goodness. Remind teachers they can teach your truth without having to cite the Bible because all truth is your truth. Deafen their ears when the enemy encourages them to question what you've said in your word, and that they may be able to artfully incorporate your truth into each academic discipline in a way that displays common sense. May their teaching refute the idea that students can create their own truth and construct their own reality, and empower administrators to choose curriculum and teachers that promote this truth. May the staff be faithful employees with stellar reputations so no false accusations raised against them can stand. May their words be true but seasoned with salt and fitting for the moment. Give them patience and gentleness when needed, but firmness and conviction as well. May they never tire of doing the right thing, even when it's not popular. Show them when they must disobey man in order to obey God, and provide for them financially if their decisions result in consequences. May they have the courage to take that chance, knowing that obeying you will sometimes disqualify them in the secular world. As people of God, please let their classrooms or offices be places where your presence is felt. Use them as ambassadors for your kingdom as they steward the gifts and positions you have given them. And we pray these things in Jesus Christ's name. Amen. So thank you so much, Eric, for taking time. I know we're actually starting our school week tomorrow, so that was a pretty big deal that you took time with us today. So I thank you. And I know that the parents and grandparents and people who are watching this are going to be really blessed with the insight that you've given. And until then, remember that we are learning how to defend the truth one cup at a time and continue to have those coffee and conversations with Christ. So cheers, and we will see you next time. Thank you.